Okay, let's try number 2. Use the given value to evaluate all 6 trigonometric functions. Number 2, cosecant theta is 2. Cosecant theta is 2. And tangent theta is square root of 3 over 3. All right. Based on this information, we're going to find all 6 trigonometric functions, values of all 6 trigonometric functions. All right. First of all, we need to find out theta. I mean, you should find which quadrant is theta. First information is this: cosecant theta is 2, which means sine theta is 1/2. And tangent theta is square root of 3 over 3. In many cases, unrationalized numbers are very useful too. So this is rationalized fraction. Unrationalized number for square root of 3 over 3 is 1 over square root of 3. Look at this. Sine is positive 1/2. Tangent is also positive. So we know that theta is in first quadrant. Look at this rule. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. In first quadrant, all 6 trigonometric functions are positive. Sine, cosine, tangent, they are reciprocals. Cosecant, secant, cotangent, all of them are positive in first quadrant. In second quadrant, only sine and its reciprocal, cosecant, are positive, which means the other 4 trigonometric functions are all negative. Cosine, secant, tangent, cotangent, these 4 functions are negative in Q2. In Q3, tangent and its reciprocal cotangent are positive, which means sine, cosine, cosecant, secant are negative. In Q4, cosine and its reciprocal secant are positive. So sine, cosecant, tangent, cotangent are negative in Q4. In question number 2, sine is positive, tangent is positive. So theta should be in first quadrant. In first quadrant, make right triangle. Like this. So theta is here in the first quadrant. And then use the ratio. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Tangent is adjacent over opposite over adjacent. Because tangent theta is 1 over square root of 3. Now you can easily find the other functions. Sine is 1/2, cosecant is 2. So what is cosine? Cosine theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So square root of 3 over 2. What is secant? Secant is a reciprocal of cosine. So flip this fraction, 2 over square root of 3, and rationalize by multiplying square root of 3 on numerator and denominator. So numerator is 2, square root of 3, denominator is 3. That's cosecant. Tangent is 1 over root 3 or root 3 over 3. So cotangent is reciprocal of 1 over square root of 3. Square root of 3. Okay. And then number 4. Number 4. Tangent is given. Tangent x is square root of 3 over 3. I said unrationalized number is very useful in some cases. And then cosine x is negative root 3 over 2. Okay. Cosine is negative root 3 over 2. Tangent is 1 over square root of 3. Okay, let's find where x is. Tangent is positive, cosine is negative. So Q3, we're going to use quadrant 3. In quadrant 3, let's make right triangle. X means this much, right? x should start from initial side because x means direction angle. And then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the other leg should be -1. Let's see if tangent theta is right. Tangent theta is -1 over -√3, which is +1 over √3. Yes, this is right combination. Now we can find the other functions. Sine. Sine x is opposite over hypotenuse, -1 over 2. So cosecant x is reciprocal of -1 over 2, which is -2. And then cosine is given. What is secant? Secant x is reciprocal of -√3 over 2, which is -2 over √3. Rationalize. So -2 square root of 3 over 3. That's secant. And tangent is given. Cotangent is square root of 3. Cotangent should be positive because tangent is positive. All right. Next question. Number 6. Cotangent theta is equal to -5. And sine theta is equal to square root of 26 over 26. I'm going to use unrationalized number. Okay. If cotangent theta is -5, tangent theta should be -1 over 5. Yes. Which quadrant do we use? Tangent is negative, sine is positive, so theta should be in second quadrant. Theta is second quadrant. So you make right triangle in second quadrant. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay. So the other leg should be -5. Satisfying Pythagorean theorem. So cotangent should be -5 over 1. Tangent is 1 over -5. Okay. Let's find the secant. No, cosecant first. Cosecant theta is reciprocal of sine, so square root of 26. Square root of 26. Yeah, what's cosine? Next one. Cosine theta is adjacent over hypotenuse, so -5 over square root of 26. Rationalize, -5 square root of 26 over 26. What is secant? Secant should be reciprocal of cosine. You better use unrationalized number. So negative square root of 26 over 5. All right. Next, question number 8. Cosine pi over 2 minus x is equal to 3 over 5. And cosine x is 4 over 5. For this question, we should use cofunction identity. According to cofunction identity, cosine pi over 2 minus x is equal to sine x. So sine x is 3 over 5. Cosine x is 4 over 5. We can use first quadrant. Because only in first quadrant, sine, cosine both are positive. X is here. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Now you can find tangent. Tangent x is opposite over adjacent, 3 over 4. So cotangent is 4 over 3. And then sine is given, so cosecant is reciprocal of 3 over 5, which is 5 over 3. Cosine is 4 over 5, so secant x is 5 over 4. Next. Let's erase this part. All right. Number 11, tangent theta is equal to 2, and they say sine theta is negative, just negative. Tangent is positive 2 and sine is negative, so we should use Q3, third quadrant. In third quadrant, tangent is positive and the other functions. Tangent and cotangent are positive and the other functions are all negative. So I think angle theta should be in third quadrant. This much is theta. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, but both of them should be negative because this point is in the third quadrant, both negative. Yeah, then what is the hypotenuse? Pythagorean theorem, square root of 5. Square root of negative 2 squared plus negative 1 squared is square root of 5. Yeah, now we can find the other functions. Tangent is 2, so cotangent is 1/2. Sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse, and then rationalize negative 2 square root of 5 over 5. Cosecant theta is reciprocal of that, negative square root of 5 over 2. Cosine theta is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is negative 1 over square root of 5. If you rationalize this, it's going to be negative square root of 5 over 5. Secant theta is reciprocal of cosine, negative square root of 5. All right. Next question. Question number 13. Cosecant theta is undefined. Okay. And cosine theta is negative. Yeah, this question is kind of different from the other questions. Cosecant is undefined. All right. If cosecant is undefined, what about its reciprocal, sine theta? If cosecant is undefined, its reciprocal sine theta should be 0, right? Reciprocal of 0 is undefined, and reciprocal of undefined is 0. So sine is 0. Okay. Sine is 0, cosine is negative. So we can't find these angles in one of the 4 quadrant. I think theta should be on the axis, like x-axis or y-axis. All right, let's find the theta which satisfy these 2 equations. I think theta should be pi, because cosine pi is negative 1. Cosine pi is negative 1, which is negative. And sine pi is, 0. So when theta equals pi, we can find 6 trigonometric functions. Sine theta is 0. Cosine theta is negative 1. Tangent theta is definitely 0 because tangent pi is 0. What is cotangent theta? Cotangent theta should be undefined because they are reciprocal. I said reciprocal of 0 is undefined. Okay? Then what is cosecant theta? Cosecant theta is undefined. Then what is secant theta? Secant theta is negative 1. Okay? All right, let's try some more simplifying question. Number 15 through 20. Okay. Number 15, secant x times cosine x. Secant and cosine are reciprocal. So product of reciprocal functions are definitely 1, which is d. Secant is 1 over cosine. And then number 16, tangent x times cosecant x. Tangent x is sine x over cosine x based on quotient identity times cosecant x is 1 over sine x. You cancel them out, so 1 over cosine is answer. 1 over cosine is same as secant x, so A. And then 17, cotangent square x minus cosecant square x. Do you remember related identity, fundamental identity, I think you can use this. 1 plus cotangent square x is equal to cosecant square x. This is one of the three Pythagorean identity. Yeah, you can move this form. Move cosecant square x to the other side, switching signs, and you can move 1 to the other side, switching signs, so that you can make cotangent square x minus cosecant square x is equal to -1. So the answer is -1, which is B. Next, 18, 1 over cosine square x times cosecant x. 1 minus cosine square x times cosecant x. Based on first Pythagorean identity, 1 minus cosine square x is equal to sine square x. You should memorize all fundamental identities. 1 minus cosine square x equals sine square x times cosecant x, which is 1 over sine x. You can divide denominator and numerator by sine x. So the answer is just sine x. Sine x is here f. All right. The 19, sine negative x. Now you can use even and odd function identity. Sine function is odd function. So sine function satisfies this. Sine negative x is equal to negative sine x. But cosine is even function. So cosine satisfies this equation. Cosine negative x equals just cosine x, because cosine is even function. Sine is odd function. So I'm going to change the numerator to negative sine x. Denominator to sine x. And as you know, sine x over cosine x is tangent. So it's going to be negative tangent x, which is same as E. Number 20. In number 20, you should use cofunction rule. According to cofunction rule, sine pi over 2 minus x is equal to cosine x. So numerator is simplified to cosine x. Denominator, cosine pi over 2 minus x is equal to sine x. And then you can use another identity, which is quotient identity. According to it, cosine x over sine x is same as cotangent x. So the answer is C.